Morning.
Good morning.
Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you all for coming this morning. What I will do is I will read from a brief statement and take any questions that you may have at the end. Due to some recent media reports surrounding some of the gun-related offenses that have resulted in the loss of life, I have deemed it necessary to address these issues with you directly in an attempt to paint a clearer picture of the status of violent crimes in Augusta. Several days ago on social media, as well as printed media, it was reported that Augusta suffered its 33rd homicide of the year. While technically the term homicide is correct, it does not reflect that 4 of those homicides are non-prosecutable cases that are the result of self-defense cases or accidental involuntary manslaughter cases. Therefore, the accurate number of prosecutable homicides in Richmond County this year to date is 29. And this number is the exact same number to date as it was last year. Now let me be clear. This number is in no way acceptable to us as an agency. Our main goal since 2013 has been the reduction of gun violence in Richmond County. While our homicide numbers remain the same, there is an alarming number of increased cases of gun-related crimes in Richmond County this year. Gun-related aggravated assaults in Richmond County have increased this year by 57%. And again, that is an alarming number. And logic tells us that the more shootings you have, the more likelihood that your homicides will increase. We also have identified that 44% of these homicides are either drug-related or have a gang nexus. Now, no prosecutable homicide is considered acceptable, but the fact still remains that almost half of our homicide victims were engaged in some form of criminal activity. This is why, aside from normal law enforcement operations, we are directing all of our Special Operations Divisions to include the Gang Task Force, Criminal Investigations Division, Crime Suppression Team, our SWAT teams, our K-9 Task Force, Traffic, and Narcotics Division to focus their efforts on deterring, enforcing, prosecuting, and preventing gun-related crimes in Richmond County. We will also be reinforcing our proactive uniform patrol team using overtime savings to add extra deputies to data-driven hotspots within our county. We view every shooting as a potential homicide, and we will take every step available to make those individuals who are out there in possession of illegal firearms and are committing these heinous crimes in our community that they are brought to justice. We understand that the social media narrative is that homicides happen every day in Richmond County, and that is simply not true. This is why we felt that it was important to directly speak to the public and to reassure them that everything possible is being done to make this county as safe as we possibly can. These efforts will continue starting today, and as you know, we're doing a canvass of the Kennedy Drive neighborhood tomorrow in reference to the homicide death of an 82-year-old, which again is one of the most heinous crimes we have in our community. Therefore, again, like I said, all efforts will be put forth to eradicating these individuals who are participating in these activities. Do you have any questions?
Can you tell me which areas, you said there are data-driven areas where there is a lot of crime. Can you tell me which areas those are?
There are several areas that what our intel analysts are doing now, comprising a map to give to those teams to show where the most shootings that we feel are occurring. So that information will be passed on to those teams. And again, that is also an evolving number because it depends on, like I said, with data driven, that those numbers are subject to change. But we do have some that have already been identified, but once the list is compiled, they'll be sent out to the different teams and the proactive teams, and they'll start hitting those as soon as this weekend.
How many extra deputies would you say you're looking to add?
It all depends. Like I said, we're utilizing all our special operations divisions first, and then again, the overtime will be based on, first we have to do normal patrol activities, and then we plan to include at least 4 proactive teams, and those teams can be up to 4 man teams apiece.
Of course, we know that I think it was around 30 deputies were cut to do the salary raises. Have you found that that's made it more difficult to do your jobs, trying to bring down these numbers of violent crimes, especially gun-related violence?
No, like I said, we're about 90% staffed. Again, like I said, half of these homicides and these individuals are people who are engaged in criminal activity. Now, of course, the more individuals you have on the street, the more areas you can cover. But that's why we use data-driven policing to counteract those shortages of deputies at the time. But we don't consider ourselves having a shortage of deputies right now. We have 2 academy classes that are going on right now, so we're going to add another 20 for the end of this year. Starting next year, we'll start some more classes. So we feel pretty good where we are to getting those people out in the street. But right now, we're really focusing on the fact that, again, our homicide numbers remain the same. But like I said, over 57% increase. We've been over 184 gun-related incidents in Richmond County. We had less than 100 this time last year. So there are a lot of illegal guns out on the streets. As far as guns being stolen from cars is a huge problem for us, illegal firearms. And that's why we encourage individuals to secure their weapons. And the car is not the way to secure the firearm. And that's what the criminals are taking advantage of these car break-ins, because they know that people are storing guns, and that's almost 300 guns that have been on the street in Augusta just from break-ins and theft.
That 184 gun-related incidents data that you just gave us, is that in 2019?
Correct, that's year to date.
You just mentioned how one of the issues that you're seeing is the fact that some of these guns are stolen from car break-ins. Is there any other issues that you guys seem to be running into that kind of pose the same issue?
Like I said, cars and burglars. Like I said, our trend is looking at, even though when you look at our Part 1 crimes are down almost 21% since we've taken office, but the burglars and break-in are focused just on for firearms. So if you get individuals who break into cars and nothing is missing, unless a person has a firearm. So they're specifically targeting homes or vehicles just for firearms. They're not taking anything else. That's what we're seeing now. That's why we encourage the public to help us with that. That if you have if you legally possess a firearm, then you need to take that one extra step to find a way to secure it, whether it's in a vault or a home safe.
Do you know if the majority of these crimes are committed with illegal firearms or legal firearms?
Well, I would say that over half of them, since they were drug or gang nexus, that most of them should not be in the possession of a firearm whatsoever. So over half, I would say, are illegal firearms. Like I said, we're not questioning the fact of a person's ability to carry, lawfully carry a firearm. These individuals, like I said, 184 gun-related incidents, these individuals have used these firearms, they've discharged them in some kind of disruptive manner. And it may not have resulted in the loss of life, or it may not have resulted in injury. Just recently we had a home that was shot on Amsterdam. No one was hurt, but a person dispensed several dozen rounds at a residence. Now, again, no one was hurt, but that is a very serious gun crime in Richmond County. And these type of incidents that we're trying to focus on.
2 more questions.
Yes.
My first one is, how many of these are gang related? Would you know off the top of your head?
24% are gang related, 20% are drug related.
And then my next question is there a specific age range that pops up with these crimes, or does it just vary?
No, on these open ones I'm mentioning, some of them are unsolved, because like I said, some of the cases, there's no injury or even no loss of life. Now we do have seen over the last few years, our offender has become useful offenders. I'd say that since I've taken office, even before I took office when I worked homicide 10 years ago. We're seeing our offenders younger and younger. So I would, not having the exact data in front of me, but we are talking about teenage to early 20s that are committing, I would say 75 to 90% of these gun-related crimes.
Can you speak to whether there's maybe an uptick in gang and drug activity that is maybe driving this increase in
Yeah, that's what
gun
we're trying,
violence?
and that's exactly what we're trying to figure out with our gang intelligence and our narcotics and our intel unit. We're trying to see exactly what is driving this intel. But what we've come to find out is that right now, especially in Richmond County, and the numbers are reflected throughout the nation, but in Richmond County, there's a gun culture in Richmond County where individuals, especially young African American males, because 100% of our homicides are of the African American community. That's just a fact. That's not trying to throw any bias one way or another. Those are just our statistical facts. But we are seeing that a gun culture where this, young people feel that it is necessary or that it is a status to carry a firearm, and those are mostly illegal firearms. And that's what we got to go to the root of, not just the enforcement aspect, but we got to change the culture. And that goes back to the homes, that goes back to the churches, to the civic groups, goes back to the neighborhoods. I say it all the time. If you have a 14-year-old, 15-year-old possession of a gun, then the parents should have some culpability in that because that's their child. They're toting that gun in and out the house. They're not hiding somewhere. They're keeping it within the confines of your residence and putting yourself and your other families at risk. And that's what they got to look at. That is not just this individual who's out in the street hanging with his friends. That he is in a culture, and we know, again, from the statistics, it's showing that if a person in possession of a firearm is 7 times more likely to be injured as a result of a firearm because he's going to be put in a position where he has to use it or it's been taken from him or someone has a firearm that decides to use theirs first. Any other question?
So what can people do, I guess, that we're talking to the community? What can, I've identified maybe one thing that people can do to stay safe, so that's like not keeping your guns in cars. Can you identify 2 other things that the community can do to be safe or promote gun safety?
Yeah, overall, like I said, we feel we have a safe community. Like I said, over half of the homicides, like that, are individuals who are engaging in criminal activity. So that is not your normal law-abiding citizens. These are individuals who have put themselves in harm's way, and as a result have either been injured by gun violence or through the loss of life. As when we did our Giving Back program, we identified these first 100 individuals, and several of these individuals on the list who refused our assistance, and we told them in the next 18 to 24 months you're either going to be a victim of or commit a gun-related crime, and we've seen that to come true. So those statistics are there. You know, again, besides being ever vigilant, our community is a very safe community. Now, we tell everybody to always be aware of your surroundings. Of course, lock your doors and your homes and your residence. But the general safety tips are still the same, especially we get into the holiday season. We tell people if you're going to shop, have a plan. When you're going to and from your car, have a plan. Have the keys in your car. Everything you do, have a plan. You've got to be vigilant in the society in which we live in. And I'm not trying to instill fear in anyone, but what we want to do in this particular case is try to dispel our biggest, I guess, not say threat, but our biggest challenge in law enforcement here with gun-related crime is the misinformation that's going on social media, where people are creating this hysteria about how unsafe the city is. That's just not true, and that is hurting our city. And we would like people to push back from that narrative and get the true facts and the numbers from it. But like I said, the 182, the 29 homicides we have, these are individuals who have most likely put themselves, now aside again from the true victim from Kennedy Drive, most of these individuals have put themselves in situations where they are going to be in a volatile situation. But most people don't do that. Most people are law-abiding citizens, and they usually don't have anything to worry about. There you go. Well, like I said, I wanted to thank you for just taking the time. We are, like I said, trying to combat some of the misinformation that's out there. We're always willing to provide accurate numbers and information to the meeting. That's why we appreciate you coming out so we can get a true and accurate picture of where we are. It is not Armageddon in Richmond County. It's nowhere near that. Do we have a gun culture problem? Absolutely. That's why we're fighting it with everything we got. I met with my top division leaders and told them this stops today. This ends. We're going to throw everything we have at this problem because the culture has to change, and we can't lock our way up out of it. It has to change from multiple aspects, and that's what we're trying to get the community to understand, that they need to help us with this because they know individuals who are illegally carrying guns. People know they use guns are in their house. They need to step up and let us help eradicate that problem. Yes.
One more question. About a couple of months ago, the mayor said that he planned for himself, someone from the commission, to meet with you because he was discussing gun violence in Richmond County a couple months ago. Did that meeting ever happen, and what came of it?
Yeah, he met with my chief deputy, Chief Clay, and went over some of the strategies that we were employing. Our biggest issue, what we're also trying to do is for overall crime, not just gun-related crime, is we want a comprehensive camera system throughout Richmond County. We've been preaching that since 2013. We got to have a starting point and then build from it. We know there's been some negative connotation that we've heard where they say that cameras just record crime and don't stop it. Well, I'd rather have a crime caught on tape than not have it whatsoever. So our philosophy is that we do feel that the implementation of camera systems is a deterrent of crime. It's happening. It works in a lot of major cities. If you look around the country, you see a lot of major progressive cities have a citywide camera system, and they've seen their numbers go down. And that's one of the things, because like I said, now we're not going to eradicate all crime, but we would like to reduce it, and we would like to solve it if it happens. And just if you look at the logic of it, if a person knows that they're likely to get caught if they commit a crime, then the likelihood of them committing it is going to decrease. And I think cameras do that. So that's one of the biggest issues that we talked about in reference to it. The mayor brought up a program that they use in Savannah, Shot Spotter. We don't feel that's necessarily the best option for here in Richmond County. Some of the people we've seen use it doesn't have the results that is advertised to have. But we did discuss the option. We don't think that's the best use of the resource of money right now. Not saying that we won't revisit it in the future. Again, like I said, what I made is saying we're trying to get, like I said, the comprehensive camera system, especially in some of our well-populated areas in Richmond County. Yes.
Would you describe what you're doing as refocusing resources on the gun violence?
Absolutely, that is extremely accurate. Now, we still going to have to, and I tell them I give people the comparison. Like last year, as far as when you're talking about calls for service, last year, Columbia County answered a little over 85,000 calls for service last year. We answered over 423,000 calls for service. That's our primary goal, is the normal police operation. But at the same time, we have to make time for preventive measures and prevent crime prevention and crime education. But now, like you said, absolutely, now we want to refocus the tools that we already have and focus all of those tools instead of having each individual division have a separate mandate with narcotics, mostly dealing with drug gangs, dealing with primary gang crime suppression is a street level hot spot. Now we're going to get all of those units, our traffic, our K9, and their central focus is gun violence. And that's going to be our central focus. Now we're still going to have a normal operation. It's just by, like you said, reallocating those manpowers at certain individuals from those divisions. That is going to be our focus through the rest of the year. Because like I said, those numbers are up. Like I said, homicide numbers remain flat, which is still unacceptable, but they remain flat. But those gun-related crimes are increasing. That's what we got to suppress. It's just like comparing it to a fire. We have a fire right now. We need to suppress that fire. We need to knock it down and let them know that we're serious about it. And this is the point that I'm making, to let everyone on notice know that we're serious about suppressing this gun violence in Richmond County. Whether it results in injury or loss of life or not, like I said, if someone shoots up a person's home, that's pretty personal to me. That's pretty personal to the people in the house, even though they may not be injured. That is the gun every time. Those individuals don't need to be on the streets of Augusta. And that's the message that we send.
You guys recently opened up the operation,
Special Operations Precinct?
yes.
Yes.
How has that been going for you guys? Do you guys see a result of it being more helpful to have everyone in the same?
Absolutely, and that's, foresee that will be our base of operation. Not knowing when we first built it that will be our first true test, but because the way it was built and designed that it can house all those units to do concentrated efforts out of one central location. So it's ideal for us. So the timing of that is extremely helpful for us. That's our future, and we have a lot of technical support within that, which some of you were able to see. Some of the tech we couldn't show you because of ongoing operations, but that building has the technical support, also has the planning space, the operational space to keep everyone on the one roof. So those individuals are focused. Everybody who's coming out and know that when they leave that compound, that we're going to take guns off the street, and the individuals who are possessing those guns as well. All right. Well, thank y'all again. Like I said, we really want to get the true facts out and numbers. We're accepting the fact and we're owning the fact that, like I said, the gun culture exists in Richmond County. But we're also stating to you that that is not acceptable for us. And like I said, now our goal is to